Welcome back, free spirits. Today's guest brings us a story that is raw, heartbreaking, and ultimately filled with resilience and transformation. Before we get into it today, don't forget to check out all of our incredibly inspiring guests at flyingupstreampodcast.com. Gina Economopoulos grew up in a big Italian Greek family in New York and eventually spent 12 years as a Catholic nun in the South Bronx. But in her journey took some deeply unexpected turns. She was asked to leave the convent just as she was about to take her final vows. Later, after falling in love and planning a wedding, her fiance died suddenly from alcoholism only 1 month before their big day. Through grief, confusion, and hidden struggles with her own addiction, Gina eventually discovered a path to sobriety, healing, and purpose. Today, she is 10 years sober, the author of Shake the Dust Off Your Feet and Walk, and an end of life doula who helps others face death and grief with compassion. This is a story about courage, faith, loss, and the power of facing painful truths head on. Gina, welcome to Flying Upstream.
Thank you, Kristen. It's a joy and an honor to be here with you and all your listeners.
Amazing. So let's get into this. You grew up in a traditional Italian Greek Catholic family, one of eight kids. What was it like being the seventh kid in such a big family?
Well, I was the fifth girl. I was spoiled. I was loved. I was named after Gina Lollobrigida, which was a famous actress in '67. So everyone would call me Gina Lollobrigida because she was a beautiful actress. So I just absorbed all that love, and I was cute, and everybody loved me. Everybody loved me, and but also as well during that time when I was born with a lot of health problems, physical problems. So that kind of separated me from my other siblings in a way because all the other seven were healthy, normal, physically, and they were very athletic. But I, growing up, was unable to be athletic, so I tried to be as much involved in the sports, whether it's being a manager or the good what is it, this high school spirit, fun, and so I was trying to really find myself during that time, but at the same time I was loved by my family.
Ah, yeah, I can understand it's hard when you are different and trying to find your own way. And I know that as time went on, you decided to join the convent and you ended up spending 12 years as a nun in the South Bronx. What drew you to that life and what did it give you at that time?
Oh my. To be honest, when I graduated from high school going to college, my dreams, like every woman's dream, was to find a man and get married and have kids. Sisterhood, being a nun, was so furthest from my mind. I did not know really what a sister was. Yes, I was raised Catholic, but by the time I left college, I did not go to church. I really didn't have a relationship with God. I guess I believed in him. It's not like I didn't, because my life didn't need him at the time. So when I graduated from college, I moved with my family back to Pennsylvania because they had retired and moved there. Bartended, got a job bartending. So this is where my life was going, and that's what I thought I would be, a professional bartender. But yet, my mom was diagnosed with cancer, with bone cancer, in 1991, and I was home. My younger brother went off to college. The other six siblings had their life, their families out, out of the house and everything. So I took care of my mom. I did not know what death was. I didn't know what dying was. I didn't know what cancer was. I just thought my mom was going to live forever. But yet she had bone cancer. She was terminally ill. She died in 5 months, and that's where one of my paths just tragically turned because I was totally lost. Didn't know what the meaning of life was, and the purpose. What is death? What is heaven? So of course there's always something in me that I always have to search. Always a searcher, and I came back to my Catholic roots, and then in that I became a nun. So it wasn't like, yeah, I'm going to be a nun as a kid. When I was a kid, it's like, yeah, this is what I want to be. It was until later on in my late 20s that I joined the convent, a Franciscan community in the South Bronx. Once again, thinking this is it, this is my life. But as you could see, it did not. I'm not there, so it's not my life.
Wow. It's fascinating because you're right. We think our parents will live forever, and the moment that we're in time, we just assume this is the way it is, and it's not. Life is changing, the world is moving. We as people are changing always too. And
Yeah.
I certainly can appreciate that you thought, well, I didn't grow up wanting to be a nun, but as your life went forward, this sort of surfaced to the top as a really good place for you. And it was a good place for a while, right? You were there for more than a decade. And
Yes.
yeah, so okay, so let's fast forward a little bit. You were preparing for your final vows. You were kind of doing it's a big step, obviously. And then the sisters actually asked you to leave. And that is such a shocking turn. Can you share what happened and how that moment shaped you?
Yes, and just to clarify, I was in final vows. It
Okay.
wasn't. It was 6 years into my religious life that I made final vows, and then it was like 4 or 5 years later they had asked me to leave. They kicked me out. They kicked me out, and I was totally shocked because as a sister, yeah, I loved God. I love people. I have a free spirit, like you share. That's what your podcast is all about for all those who are free spirit. I have a free spirit, and it didn't gel with the sisters. They were more on a one would say like a cookie cutter. And throughout my, in the beginning it was great, loved it, and I guess and everybody loved me because I had a great smile. I was a caring person. I loved to pray. People just was attracted to me. It was like there was a magnet. They were always around me for prayers, and they always say there's something special about you. But yet, when you're living with nuns and women, there could be jealousy. They were just they treated me awful by the time I left. In the last 3 4 years, I was walking on eggshells. I was full of fear. I didn't understand what was going on because I'm trying to be this free spirit, and they were trying to stifle my spirit. Like there are many examples I could share, which it just really blows my mind the way I was treated. Was that, like for instance, we have rules. Okay, everyone has rules, no problem. But one of the rules is that you couldn't, a nun couldn't drink from a bottle because it didn't look right. A bottle of water or a Coke or whatever it may be. But so, okay, understand. But when there was a time that I was out with other sisters and it was very hot, very hot. We came across a bottle of water. I forgot to bring cups, but I was like, hey, I'm thirsty. I'm going to drink. I don't care. I need a cup. I drank the bottle. The other sisters didn't. We go back to the convent, and then I was reprimanded. So those are the little things that were like going on in the convent. And I was like, but I'm thirsty. I'm dying here. I mean, it's a hot summer day. We can't drink. And so they were sort of looking like on the outside of things, and the way we looked and how we did this. And meanwhile, I'm like, no, it's what's the inside. It's what's the inside. So now here, fast forward, there was just all these little incidents that were just really observed. Like I was afraid. I was afraid to be me. I was afraid to talk to a friar. There was another incident with Christmas Eve. It was a time where we opened up the church for all friends, families, and we had this big gathering of Christmas Eve, a big celebration. And there was a young kid, about 13 years old, which I knew when he was like 9, and he was more living on the streets. And when I saw him, he was doing well. He was living at this home and doing well. And he came up to me and gave me such a great big hug. Here I am wearing a habit. Here's this 13-year-old giving me a big hug. I of course I hugged him back. But once again, I get home and they say, you shouldn't be hugging. And I was like, oh my gosh. I said, it was a 13-year-old kid that was just so excited to see me, and I had helped him. So So those are a couple of examples that I was enduring, and by the time I left the convent, the last 2 years, here I'm in final vows. I was in charge of I was in charge of one of the convents, but I was strictly, like a cookie cutter. Like I had to do this and do that, and if I stepped out of line, I would get reprimanded over the silliest things. But in the last 2 years, they thought there was something wrong with me, so I was sent away to go get help at a therapeutical place in Michigan. And I said, okay, maybe there is something wrong with me because, to be honest, Kristen, I didn't have the security within myself for myself. I mean, the things that were happening, I should have said, this is wrong. Other people saw it was wrong. Other religious communities saw it was wrong. Even in my own community saw it was wrong. But nobody stepped in to say, hey, it's wrong, to help me. So by the time I left, I did everything I could. They sent me away, etc. And then they come to say I don't belong there anymore after putting my blood, sweat, and tears for 12 years for the community, for the people, the neighborhood, and everything like that. That I was like, okay, the way I really felt was that I was pushed against the wall. I did everything I could, and it was like I had to leave, surrender. There was no more, no more. So I was pushed out.
I want to circle back to one thing that you touched on, which is emotional abuse in the convent and how you endured it without speaking up. Even though everybody knew it was wrong, you knew deep, deep down it was wrong, but you're kind of thinking, oh, maybe there is something wrong with me. Looking back at that time, what do you wish you had known?
Oh, I wish I knew it was wrong. I wish I had the uh the strength and the security and the love for me to be able to stand up for me because I was very insecure. I was very fearful. I was very a people pleaser. I didn't want to disturb anyone. I didn't want to make anyone mad at me. Everybody loved me, so I had this persona. I had this persona even as a sister, and then, to be honest, in hindsight, Kristen, there were other sisters that came before me that experienced the same kind of abuse, but they only lasted like a year, 2 years, because I was like saying, this lady's crazy. Let me leave. And I didn't really know that. I didn't really know that. I was the one that really endured such an abuse and allowed it. Like I said, I was isolated. I was betrayed. I was, really, I was sent away. I couldn't be in contact with my family. Yeah, it was so hard. So, I wish back then is what I know now today. And what I know now today, who I am. I'm a sober woman. And I wish I knew that back then because I would have said, hold on, this is wrong. This is wrong. And the really sad thing is that even people saw it was a sick community, but nobody wanted to do anything. They wanted to, they were just ignoring it. And like they're like, oh, and they would make excuses for them. And I mean, I made excuses for them until I realized that no, no. And I wasn't able to say I was emotionally abused until years later, looking back, because I can't say that. But I came to a point in my life that yes, I was mistreated. I was emotionally abused. I don't know how they are today. I'm not there today, but this is my experience and this is what I'm feeling. This is what I went through. So when I was able to say yes, and then I just recently got in contact with another sister who left before me, and she says, yeah, she goes, she was emotionally abused too. And I said, you were? And I was in the convent at the time, and it was just like eye-opening. Like I didn't see anything at the time. It was all about me and trying to please others, and because everybody wanted me to be a nun and everything like that. And the last thing I'll say, Kristen, is that, like you heard, my mom died. I got my faith and I ran to the convent. Like I didn't have a breather and to grow, to learn more, or to learn about my faith, or to learn about God, learn about the church, etc. So I mean, I can't blame them. I can't blame me. It is what it was, and it's who I was at then. But I'm not that person today.
I really appreciate that, a lot of time has passed and you've had time to reflect on that experience for you. But it is unfortunately so common, and especially for women in whatever your work environment is, whether it's in a convent or a corporate life or, wherever. I know I've experienced it too. And it is tragic that no one speaks up. I saw it happening to my peers who were female, who were gay, any kind of minority, anybody who's different, anybody who speaks up. It's terrible. And I made excuses for other people too until it happened to me. And then that was when I realized, oh, this is real. This is real. And I know myself. I know I'm not doing anything wrong. I am giving 1,000%, and still they're telling me I'm not good enough, I'm bad, nitpicking little things that are silly, right? Like, you gave this
Mhm.
kid a hug on Christmas Eve. That's a silly thing to nitpick, right? So it is very real. And for our listeners out there, I just want you to know, if you're in this position, it is hard to speak up, to stand up, to quit the life that you're in and find something else. It is extremely difficult, but there is ways to do it. There are ways to do it. So if you are in that place, don't give up hope, find some support and find a way out of that. It is not worth sticking around in that kind of life for you. So,
Amen. It's true.
all right, so let's fast forward a little bit. So, after
Okay.
leaving the convent, you took a breath, you rebuilt your life, you found love,
Yes,
only
I
to lose
did.
your yes, and only to
Yeah.
lose your fiancé to alcoholism 1 month before
Yeah.
your wedding. How did that
Yeah.
loss change you?
Oh, when Danny died and when he ended up dying from the disease, I was so really unfamiliar with the disease. But when that happened, my life was dead, Kristen. I was like, no more. Because throughout my life, in hindsight, I just kept pushing forward. I just kept getting up and walking, searching, okay, everything's going to be good. But at that moment, I was simply existing. I hated life. I hated myself. I hated everything around me. I hated Danny and I hated God. I hated alcoholism, the disease. And so, to be honest, for about 2 years during, after his death, I was in complicated grief. I was like, okay, I came to a point that, okay, I'll be miserable my whole life. Oh, I found my purpose, Gina. What's your purpose, Gina? It is to suffer. Yes, that's my purpose. And I really felt that. And I really believe that. So that was sort of at that point was the most, the darkest, deepest point where I gave up. I gave up. I gave up. And, but yet I ended up, coming back to the Jersey Shore because that's where I met Danny. And I went back to bartending because I was just not no, I didn't go back to bartending. I was just it was when I was bartending that I met Danny. But yet, after he died, I just came back to the shore and just like, okay, zombie, yeah, yeah, Kristen, you could be happy, not Gina. That's okay. Just give it to me. I'm tired. I'm tired of all the bad luck, the dark things in my life, the black cloud over me, the being the black sheep, whatever you call it. And then I ended up kind of going into the rooms of AA because, like you had shared, he was an alcoholic when I met him, but and he died from the disease. He had a tragic story in itself. And so here, there was some sort of little push in me saying, why did he die and alcoholics live? What is this alcoholism? So I went into the rooms of AA. I did not identify myself as an alcoholic because it wasn't me, it was Danny. I was filled with hate, resentment, everything you name, anger, tears, fear. And I just was like, don't even talk to me. I'm just here to listen, to hear why you're sober, why you got it, and Danny didn't. And then I was there for, I did identify myself a desire not to pick up, just to be part of the group. But I was just, oh, I was like so angry. And then as time went on, for some reason, I just kept going to this one particular meeting. And I'm like, I'm not the alcoholic. You guys are the jerks. I had other words, but it was like, and and then I come to find out after listening, and 10 months, 11 months later, somebody had come up to me and says, Gina, you come here every day and you say you're not an alcoholic. What's your relationship with alcohol? Because at this time it's all Danny. Danny's the alcoholic. And then I had to once again look in my life, and I'm like, oh my God, I am an alcoholic. So I did. So on April 2nd, 2015, the words, "My name is Gina, I am an alcoholic," came out. And that was the another turning point, but it was a turning point going into the light instead of being sticking and staying in the dark and being paralyzed with fear, resentment, anger, all that, unforgiveness, all that. So,
And for years, you had smiled through life, but you were secretly drinking. How did facing the truth of your addiction open the door to real healing?
well, at first it's like, no, it can't be me. Not a nun. No, not Sister Regina, not Gina, the seventh child, the Gina Little Bridger. It can't be me. But then when I came to realize, which is step one in our program, going to these meetings, it changed me completely. It just opened my mind and my heart to the healing process. And I really do believe that was the true beginning of my healing process, but also to find out who Gina is. Granted, I'm an alcoholic, but that's not really who I am. I'm a woman of faith, a sober woman of faith. The only thing I can't do in life is not pick up a drink, and everything else, is a bonus in my life. If I don't pick up that drink, if I'm alive and don't pick up a drink and I have a God in my life, everything's a bonus. So, the healing journey began when I said I was an alcoholic when it first came out. But it wasn't like, yeah, this is great. I was like, oh my, another thing in my life. But I gave it a chance. I was honest, open, and willing just to breathe, give it a chance. Okay, God. And at first I hated God. And I didn't have any problem saying that either, because people are like, oh, how can you hate God? Gina hates God. I hate God. And so, when I said that, it was sort of like I was honest, I was open. And then when people came to find out I was a nun, they're like, oh my God, a nun hates God. Yes, I was a former nun. I hated, because I blamed him for everything. But then yet, listening to the, other people sharing their experience, strength, and hope, and just being there, God, the higher power, the universe did for me what I couldn't do for myself. And slowly but surely, it wasn't like a microwavable healing, because it never is. It was just a slow, and it still is, just a slow, open healing, just letting the light of God, the universe in. And the only way I can do that is not picking up a drink.
Yes, and today you're 10 years sober. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you are living a simple life with your partner, and you are working as an end of life doula. So, explain to our audience what that is and what drew you to that calling. And I'm also curious to know how it connects back to your earlier life experiences with death and grief.
Yes, an end of life doula is a non-medical holistic presence to be with the dying, to bring compassionate, to help them transition from this life to the next, and to be with the families, because it's a challenging time, it's a difficult time. So that I became a certified end of life doula about 2 years ago. I didn't know, I didn't have any idea what end of life doula was. I was like, what is that? Because somebody approached me, says, you could be certified and you could put out your service. And I was like, really? And I so, but because like I shared with you, when my mom died 33 years ago now, I didn't have any faith, no hope, and no love. I was in hell. To me, that's hell, Kristen. If that's my experience of hell. And then, like I said, I found God and I was like, wow, I taste heaven. I'm going to become a nun. I taste heaven. I taste a place of peace. I taste where my mother is. I was like, yeah. And then for some reason, I like, little behold me, during my sisterhood, God put the seed in my heart, because I was with a lot of dying as a sister without even realizing I was. People would call me, say, "Oh, Sister Regina, can you come here to my cousin's neighbors, whatever is dying?" Sure. And for some reason I had no fear of being with them, because I know where they're going. I wasn't like when I was with my mom. With my mom, I wanted them to stay. But with them, however old they are, they come to their point. Okay, you're going home. You're going home. And many times I was with them when they took their last breath. Many times, I would go and say a prayer and then I leave the room and they would take their last breath. Many times I would feel heaven coming into the rooms like, okay, or universe, whatever there is. They don't have to be Catholic or Christian, whatever their faith belief is, They don't have to have a faith or belief. I do, and I do experience that. So that those seeds just grew and grew. And then of course after Danny's death, I wasn't at his death, I was very upset with that. And I was upset, I was like, and it was furthest from my mind. But here and there, I happened to be with people that were dying. I don't know how. Like I would be by the hospital, I'd be in the emergency, like I would hold somebody's hands. And that's where I learned to be an end of life doula. And I said, well, that's a passion of mine. I love it. I love it. And I don't, it's hard, I'm not ashamed to say, but I do love it because of just of my experience of being in hell where I don't want to be and being in a place of peace and heaven in this life. And so I can't imagine in the next life. So, when somebody reaches out and asks for my service or anyone, it could be, I love to pray. I put them in the presence of God. I may hold their hand. I may not say a word. I may be with their family. I know grief personally. Grief sucks. Excuse me, but that was part of. I was very good. I'm a great griever. I've learned through grief what can't say anything, what to say, not to say. You don't say nothing. When somebody with the families, you just got to be present. There's no words. There's no words to tell someone when they lose a loved one, whether it's a child, a father, a mother, a kid. It doesn't matter how old they are. It does not matter. All I just say, my encouragement is just keep breathing. Just keep breathing. That's it, and I don't push my faith onto anyone else, like, or my God onto anyone else. I allow them because I know in my heart that they do have a God, a higher power universe, someone that's not them, and I know there is a heaven that I do believe in, eternal peace, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's better than this life in any way because I won't have to please anyone. You don't have to please anyone up there that I believe, that's my life. So that's what my belief is. So that kept me going. That feeds me. And that's where I offer my service today for those who call and they may not call. I may know someone that's dying. Okay. I pray for that person right now or, be with them. So
That's so beautiful. I think there's something really impactful in your story, not just because it's very inspiring, but that this thread has followed you your whole life of grief and sorrow and you yourself learning excuse me, learning to process it and becoming familiar and comfortable with it, which is not comfortable for many people, of course,
yeah.
but learning that and then just rolling in like death and end of life. I mean, it almost seems like your whole life has prepared you for this. you know, it's so
I
perfect.
believe you're right. And I truly believe that because for all my experiences, the person who I am today that's able to be that have that compassion and to be there for others during their time of need. So
Yeah, beautiful. So, Gina, as we wrap up here, for our listeners who may feel broken or lost right now, what would you tell them about finding the courage to keep walking?
well, I would say just keep walking. Do not lose hope and know that you're not alone. You are not alone, no matter who you are, what your situation, you are not alone, that you are loved and do not lose hope. Do not lose that hope. I mean, if you have to be simply existing, just keep putting one foot in front of the other, one foot back, keep feeling. I always say keep feeling, even if you feel angry. If you have to punch a wall, go punch a wall. If you have to punch me, go punch me. I mean, to let it all out, and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay and how you're feeling at this moment. And just know that there's something greater, God, universe, someone greater than you and than me that's carrying you, believe it or not, that's helping us. And we may not see it, but in hindsight, God willing, one day you will see it. So,
It's
and the
incredible.
last thing I want to say is if nobody told you that they loved you today, I do. Gina loves you.
Thank you, Gina. Right back at you. Gina, thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey with such honesty and heart. Your story is truly proof that even in the darkest moments, clarity and purpose can emerge. For our free spirits out there, you can find Gina's memoir, Shake the Dust Off Your Feet and Walk, on Amazon. And don't forget to visit us at Flying Upstream Podcast for more episodes and resources. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and of course, keep flying upstream.